Okay, I will call this regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen for Tuesday, April 21st to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, wherever you are. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. First Selectmen's report, I have a couple of things. These are not in any particular order, but I think these are informational items that would be of importance to everyone. As you know, the discussions around the town budget process continue. F&B voted last night. Kate was on that meeting, so she can give us a little bit more clarity. We do continue to pursue from Governor Lamont's office some clarification for towns with RTMs. Thus far, the executive orders have been silent on RTMs for the budget making purposes. They are referenced in Executive Order 7S relating to other kinds of approvals, special appropriations, and bonding authorizations. So if and when that guidance comes out, we will certainly share it with everyone. We had 2 days in Darien of no positive cases being reported to our local health director. However, I do know that there are a number of cases, as David mentioned earlier, that have not been reported to the town, and even some hospitalizations that have not been reported to the town. So while it is a welcome reprieve to not receive that information, we have to be mindful that it might not be representative of actually the situation with the virus here in Darien. I also mentioned that the wellness video series is now online and available to you on the TV79 Vimeo platform. We have had 14 amazing mental wellness providers from both the nonprofit and private sector and clergy participate in that. It's been so well received that we have additional participants who want to contribute videos to that collection, and a big shout out to the Darien Foundation, who, when they called me early in the crisis, we talked a lot about the needs in our community, and the two needs that really rose to the top initially were how do we help our seniors with food, and how do we handle the social and emotional impacts of isolation and quarantine. And they really stepped up on both of those accounts for us. So please thank them when you have a chance. Interestingly, Governor Lamont announced yesterday an app called the How to Feel app. And this has been developed with technology professionals across the nation. And it is in an endeavor to gather more information about the virus in the face of widespread testing shortages, which I'm sure you all know that we have significant testing shortages. And the gathering of the data through this How We Feel app is going to form the basis for future modeling. The app is available on the Apple App Store, on Google Play, and also on the web at howwefeel.org. For everyone who downloads the app, really wonderful, a free meal is donated to Feeding America to support food banks nationally. They're hoping to provide 10 million meals to Americans in need. It's a zip code based app, so they say that it's not going to track you as an individual. And this is being done on a national basis. Of course, it's only voluntary, but I think it's a very interesting way to use technology. They are going to soon roll out, the governor has 3,500 of these smart thermometers, which will be used in a variety of different forums, in business locations, maybe even families, where temperatures will be taken 2 times a day, and that information will be uploaded via Bluetooth to the cloud and used by the state to try and get ahead of any areas of outbreak. Additionally, the state of Connecticut and CVS have formed a partnership to offer the Abbott rapid testing to eligible Connecticut residents. Eligibility is determined by symptoms, risk factors, age, and residency. And if you're interested, there's an online registration. And this information is on the town website. It's at www.cvs.com/minuteclinic/COVID-19 testing. The testing is going to take place at Gateway Community College in New Haven. And again, all this information is on the town website. I do wish that we had one of these facilities here in Fairfield County, but it doesn't seem that a location here was chosen. Connecticut is also looking at utilizing, you might have heard about it, another app that is a unique collaboration between Apple and Google to do contact tracing. And Governor Lamont, in his press release yesterday, said that it's probably a more viable way to do contact tracking than, as David had described, calling people and asking them for their personal information. The way this app works is if you have your phone and you have the app, it gathers data of people that are in proximity to you, and it holds that data for 14 days. And if you become ill with the virus, you can acknowledge through the app that you're sick, and the app will actually send notifications to those people that you've been in contact with for the last 14 days. So truly, the technology available to us right now will be very, very helpful in America recovering from this virus. More locally, I am forming a Darien Business Recovery Task Force in collaboration with members of the Board of Finance, the organization called SCORE, Service Corp of Retired Executives, the Darien Men's Association, the Darien Chamber, and our local Small Business Association representative and local business leaders. We're hoping to roll out a weekly phone call for any businesses that need assistance, and then from there, these fantastic experienced business volunteers will work one-on-one with small businesses that might have certain financial planning needs or need help with any of the applications for federal and state programs. I have to dig deeper on this, but apparently the data provided by the state of Connecticut, they've changed how data is being reported about positive cases and deaths. And that change occurred last Thursday, so I will get more information to you on how that impacts us, if at all. And Governor Lamont announced yesterday that while May 20th has been flagged as the day of possibly reopening the schools, he indicated yesterday that it is his goal for May 20th to be when he will share more information about a plan for reopening the state. As you heard from Pam earlier, we're working on a beach and park reopening plan that is being necessitated by the need to open the boat club, and also to accommodate our community gardeners that need to get their plants in the ground but can't drive in to do so. And new this morning, Governor Lamont has put out information about launching a long-term recovery committee. So I will be looking to discuss this with the Board of Selectmen on how we can put together our own version of a long-term recovery committee for the town of Darien. That's it for me. I'll turn it to Kate.
Good morning. I want to reiterate what Jamie said earlier about staff. Our staff is really doing a tremendous job, and it is not an easy thing to come in here every day. And I really appreciate all the people who have been doing it every day for the last 4 or 5 weeks. They're really doing a tremendous job. We are still working on many things. Highland Farms construction is underway, and we are working, even though negotiations have stopped with Public Works, we are actually, working on our research to prepare for that. We've got some FOI requests that we still have to fulfill. So our regular business is going on top of all the the COVID-19 business. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Kate. So moving on to new business, we have one item today, and that is to discuss and take action on a request to authorize a tax deferment and or a low interest rate program in accordance with the Governor Lamont's Executive Order 7S. As you all probably know, the municipalities are required to provide one or both of these programs. Our action today will assist the RTM in their ultimate decision about these programs. Kate, maybe you'd like to share with us or Jen about the action that the Board of Finance took with your guidance.
This is Jen. I can talk about that. The Board of Finance discussed the two options, and after a lengthy discussion, their recommendation was to go with the tax deferral option only, and only with the OPM eligibility guidelines. They did have some discussion about should it be opened up to additional taxpayers, but the final decision was to leave it with just the OPM eligibility as proposed.
And can you tell us why they chose to go with requiring the OPM eligibility guidance? I do know that there's other communities that are offering the deferral and opening it up to all taxpayers.
The main concern was cash flow pressure. We need cash in July, August, and September, and the concern was if we open it up to everyone, people in this town are very financially savvy and will not necessarily pay if they don't need pay early if they don't need to. If they can wait until October, many probably would. It would be an incentive for people who do have the ability to pay to delay and put pressure on our cash flow.
Okay. I'm wondering if you might be able to walk us through the data that you sent to us to support the Board of Finances and our decision today. The 4 different scenarios.
Certainly. So, because we really don't know, we chose 4 scenarios. All of them assume that the commercial and apartment categories are going to be hit the hardest. So we looked at one scenario where there was a 5% deferral for residential and others and a 100% deferral for commercial and apartment. Scenario 1 and 2 look at that amount of deferral, and they say, what if we collected our usual 5-year average collection? What would our cash flow look like? But what if we only, in scenario 2, what if we only collected at our lowest post-recession collection rate, which occurred in 2009? It is a almost arbitrary number that was selected, but it was the most recent economic stressful situation that we had to see what the impact was on collection rate. Then scenarios 3 and 4 look at, again, the 5% and 100% deferrals. But they say, what if the commercial doesn't start coming in after October 1st and only 50% of them get collected? So those were the 4 scenarios that we modeled. And it shows that typical for November, we get very close on our cash flow. And then in December, we usually get a sizable number of taxpayers that are paying their January bill early. So we start to see some relief on the cash flow pressures. Under all of these scenarios, we are okay with cash flow. But again, the concern was if we did open up one of these programs to all taxpayers, the earlier months would see a lot of pressure.
Okay. I think this question was brought up in our OPC meeting about the fact that we know that there's a portion of our taxpayer base that has their property taxes escrowed, and under the governor's orders, those escrow payments must be made. There's no option for that if the homeowner or the business mortgagee is current on their mortgage. So, I hope that factors into our thinking about this, that there is, I want to say it's about, is it 34% roughly that of our taxpayers escrow their taxes? Does that sound right, Kathy?
Yes, that sounds about right. I have, based on the information I got from the banks to code accounts, it was about 37% in July, but that percentage changes as people are paying off their mortgages and start to pay directly. So I would say anywhere between 34 to 35% is probably a good indication.
Okay. So, to my board members, do you have questions?
Kathy, that's dollar amounts, or is it?
I'm sorry, we didn't catch that.
I'm sorry, I wanted to ask Kathy, is that 34 or 37% the number of payers, or is that the dollar amount?
Dollar amount.
Thank you.
I'd like to open to the board for questions on Jen's analysis. David, I know that you are great with numbers. I'm curious to hear your input on this analysis.
I actually listened to the Board of Finance meeting, and they discussed it fairly thoroughly, and I agreed with their conclusion in terms of the impact and the choice for us. I think it's a little difficult. I think that the scenarios that Jen has laid out here are pretty conservative in terms of the one she picked, and I feel like that's the right strategy to use, is to sort of plan for the downside on the expectation that we may turn out a little bit better than that. And the fact that we are safe under all four of the scenarios seems to confirm that is true.
Okay, thank you, David. Krista and Sarah, do you have questions about the analysis? And then we can have further discussion about, how we want to proceed.
Yes, hi, this is Krista. Thank you so much, Jen, for this analysis. Could you speak a little bit more? You mentioned a comment, and it's stated here also with the Board of Finance, this idea of cash flow pressure. Could you elaborate as to what does that mean for the town of Darien? What would the impact of that be, so someone watching this could better understand?
So, two major expenditures that occur in July are funding of our 6-month debt service payments, which is going to be about $7.3 million. We fund that as early in July as possible. And we typically make our pension and OPEB contributions first thing in July, so that we get the full advantage of a year's investment on those. So that's about $3.8 million. That is one that if we were having cash flow stress, we can move that back. It would impact our pension and OPEB trust accounts because we wouldn't get as much investment income, but we do have flexibility on that. The debt service, we do not have flexibility on. And then the other things that I looked at was our typical other town and Board of Ed expenditures in July, August, September. So we typically spend about $10 million in July, and it does go down in August to about just under $6 million, and then back up to about $10 million in September. So we have a lot of cash that goes out the door early in the year, and we really do rely on that first July tax collection period to fund our early expenditures.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that just gives the color to the whole picture in the analysis. Thank you.
Hey, Jen, this is David. Just for edification for folks that are listening and to make sure I understand this correctly, if there were to be any shortfalls, we're talking about shortfall in revenue matching current expenditures, but there is still excess funds in the general fund that would be available to us to meet any payments that are needed, correct?
Yes, our fund balance is about $23 million, so we do have cash reserves. So if need be, if the tax revenue wasn't coming in or was coming in very slowly, we do have cash reserves.
And what is the current excess over the 12% target that the Board of Finance has set?
About $4 million.
Great, thank you.
It's Sarah. The only question that I have is there a predicted shortfall that we may not be able to make up? I know that we can take it from the general fund if we need to, as you just mentioned, but has there been a conservative estimate on that?
No, we didn't look at kind of the absolute worst case scenario where it would be problematic.
So,
Okay, thank you.
We thought that these scenarios were probably, like David said, on the conservative side, and probably conservative enough that they are taking into account a situation that will hopefully be worse than we.
as long as the analysis also includes other revenues that might not be coming to the town. I know we already talked about some in our department heads, but there may be some revenues from intergovernmental transfers that may not come to us this year. Those decisions have not yet been made. I did attend a webinar and was able to ascertain that at least for this year, special ed funding will be held to the levels that we expect. The same was not said for ECS and for pilot payments. You know, we don't get a lot, but we get some, and I know that we do consider those in our budget revenues. So let me segue to another comment to sort of follow up on David and Sarah's questions. If our worst case is worse than what you've predicted here, what's the procedure for and under what criteria can we issue tax anticipation notes?
If tax revenues are not coming in, we do have the option to issue tax anticipation notes. I did ask our financial advisor about this as we were working on the bond issue. He said it's a fairly quick turnaround. Most towns do not do them competitively. They would do a private placement, so we might look to People's Bank, where we already have our relationship for our operations, or some other Connecticut bank, and do a private placement to raise the funds that we need. But he did say it's a fairly quick turnaround. We would have to provide a cash flow analysis, information about what the funds would be used for, and they are short-term borrowing.
And when you say short-term, what's the typical term of a TAN?
I believe months. I believe he might have said 6 months, but I'm not certain on that.
Okay.
It wouldn't go longer than 6 months because you'd have the next collection coming in.
Okay.
Right.
So
All right.
probably more like 90 days.
And because of our credit worthiness, we should not anticipate that we would have difficulty issuing TANs. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any other questions I have a question for Kathy. So Kathy, if we choose to vote to support the same action at the Board of Finance, a deferral program with eligibility criteria, that means that you and the folks in your department are going to have an additional burden, a unique burden of looking at the data that taxpayers provide to prove their eligibility. Have you thought about what that means for you in terms of time and staffing?
Can I interject, Amy, real quick?
Yes.
I think we might want to make Tony's staff in the assessor's office, because they do this thing on a regular basis where Kathy's staff does not.
Okay. All right.
But that's, up to Kathy too.
I mean, it could, either way, I'm flexible. The due date for those applications is July 1, so it would be before the, hopefully heavy tax payment volume comes in July. So, I'm flexible no matter what we decide. We'll make it work.
Okay. I just want to be mindful of having a plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tammy, I have a question.
Yes.
The governor's order seems to indicate that the decision on which of these options to take on, the deferral or low interest, has to be done by April 25th. Now, the RTM is not meeting until the 27th. Or how are we going to meet the governor's thing, or has it been changed? Has the deadline been changed?
Yeah, as soon as we knew the date that the RTM had set for their meeting, we petitioned the Office of Policy and Management to get an extension, as we were allowed to do through the order. And that extension was granted to us yesterday, so we can reply on or before April 29th.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, any other questions to the board on our item to take action to authorize a tax deferment and or low interest rate program?
So, this is just one last question regarding sort of picking up on the point of collecting this information. Could somebody just talk about the process a taxpayer needs to go through to certify this loss of income? They need to get notaries? Are we back to that same issue? I mean, how onerous? Is it uniform? Is it documented, et cetera, et cetera?
So the OPM, Office of Policy and Management, has issued guidance. The eligible taxpayers will have to provide documentation showing that they have, for residential property taxpayers, that they've suffered a 20% or greater loss in income since March 10th. It does either because they were furloughed, they had reduced hours, or they became unemployed. The guidance does not specify what kind of documentation, and I've spoken to some colleagues, and we can be as simple as provide us some form of proof, the furlough notice, your pink slip, that shows you lost your job or showed your hours were reduced. There would be some communication from the employer saying that your hours have been reduced. They also do have to provide proof of residency. So we can make it really pretty, make it unburdensome for the residents. Businesses, for their residential tax relief, will need to show a loss of 30% of income from the same period the prior year. That one's going to be a little bit more difficult, but they'll have to show financials. They do have to give financial information to the assessor in the July period anyway. And then landlords have to show that they have provided relief that's commensurate with the relief that we're going to be giving. So again, it's something that I believe would be relatively easy for the assessor's office to collect, as it's information that some of the information stuff they're already going to get.
Okay, and is there, as we know with Tony, is there an appeal process for this if they are denied for any reason?
The guidance does not discuss an appeal process. That's a very good question.
We'll have to ask the attorney about
Hold
that.
on, wait a second. Hello, it's Kathy.
Hi, Kathy.
If you look at page 2 of the application for the deferral, it's the certification part. It does speak to that. I'm requesting the deferred, and I hereby irrevocably waive all rights to appeal or dispute them on any basis. So, I believe it speaks to that there is no appeal process in this.
Okay.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah, thanks. Could you do me a favor, Kate? Could you please send out that application to all of the board members? The draft?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Can I clarify, Kate, that's all part of the the Office of Policy and Management Guidance Executive Order number 7S?
Yes.
Okay. It's all documented already.
Yep.
Thank you.
And we added that eligibility criteria right into the resolution that we're hopefully about to approve. Okay, are there any further questions before we take action? Does everyone have the updated resolution? David, thank you for your edits on that yesterday. And if so, with your permission, I'll waive the reading of this lengthy resolution other than to state the action. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Selectmen approves adoption of the tax deferment program as detailed in the Governor's Executive Order 7S for eligible taxpayers and forwards this recommendation to the representative town meeting for its consideration and approval. I'll entertain a motion to approve this resolution.
Sarah, okay.
That-
Kip has it.
Kip moves.
Sarah seconds.
Sarah seconds. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, thank you very much. Kathy, Jen, and Kate, thank you very much for all your assistance with that item.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we have meeting minutes, review and approve the minutes of April 6th, special meeting. I only have one edit, which is at the top of page, I guess it's numbered page 18. At the end of the second sentence, she extended her deepest sympathy to the families or family, and then cross out first death, deepest sympathy to family.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other corrections or additions to the April 6th minutes?
No.
No, okay. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Was that David?
Yep.
Okay, may I have a second?
Kip seconds.
Kip, thank you. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, thank you very much. Agenda review. I have a couple things that I would like to put on our next meeting agenda. I would like to discuss with the Board of Selectmen your thoughts on the Pear Tree Beach building project. I would also we should be in a posture to discuss whatever comes from the Board of Finance about any deferments or adjustments they're going to ask of us from our budget. I'd like to talk about the creation of the local long-term recovery committee. It doesn't have to be on the next one, but Krista, to follow on your comments with Beth, begin to put on a future agenda a senior program non-resident fee. Maybe get some more information from Beth about how other communities are handling that. And Kate, I noted in our department heads meeting that the senior program has some savings right now. And I'm wondering if needed, if those funds could be transferred to the Human Service Department.
Yeah, I already actually asked Jen to take a look at what we might have left over because we haven't been spending. I would note that we will have some loss of revenue as well.
Yes.
Because there are fees to offset the meal program, but we will take a look at that. And if Human Services needs additional funding, that's a potential source.
Okay, great. Other board members, agenda review items.
This is Krista. I would still love to hear from the town treasurer. She could attend our next meeting.
Yep.
Is there something specific you want her to be talking about?
No, I'd like certainly to have her speak about her report and how it's going, handling the finances and her assumptions.
Okay.
I think we should also make sure that she is invited to discuss the status of her investments with the Board of Finance as they're doing their review, perhaps as early as this Thursday evening. Anything else for agenda review? Okay, hearing nothing. Kate, did we receive any public comments to our new Board of Selectmen email?
We did not.
Okay. We're going to make sure that
Surprising.
Going forward for all of our meetings, we will put on our agenda how people can make that public comment, okay? If we can just add that to the agenda format.
Jamie?
Yes.
This is Sarah.
Yes.
I'm confused, I guess, by that because there were some emails that were being forwarded to the Board of Selectmen from the town clerk that were being sent to the RTM regarding the vote.
Right, those were all comments directed to the RTM regarding the budget vote. They weren't directed to the Board of Selectmen. We did ask that those emails be shared with the Board of Selectmen. But that wasn't comments from the public directed at the Board of Selectmen.
Okay, it was my understanding that some of these folks that were sending these emails believed that this was being submitted for public comment.
To the Board of Selectmen? Because they were all addressed to the RTM.
I understand what you're saying. It's my understanding that some are going to be sent also via our meeting for public comment, given the some of the emails are referencing the Board of Selectmen, and I don't know if this is something for agenda review or for discussion right now, but I think it's a topic we need to discuss.
Yeah, none of them were submitted to us, but I will point out what was disturbing to me in reading some of those comments was the number of people who thought that this originated with the Board of Selectmen or with the first Selectmen. It was a response by the town attorney to the executive order that this was how the executive order was to be carried out. It was not something that anybody on the Board of Selectmen was trying to create. In fact, you all are aware that you had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, actually,
I'd agree with that, and that is part of my issue. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We have no role at this point in time. The board has no role. The first selectman has no role. So, but to your point about the emails, I did not receive any emails to either the Board of Selectmen or to me as first selectman for this meeting today. We were lucky that our town clerk asked us if we wanted to see those RTM emails, which she then forwarded, and then you received them as well.
Okay, Jamie, I'd like to agree with you and reiterate the Board of Selectmen has no role in this. We should let the RTM make these decisions. I'm disheartened by the public opinion that the Board of Selectmen is trying to impede the RTM's ability to vote on this. So I look forward to, the RTM's discussion on this. I'm grateful that the state has given them the extension to that date at the 29th. But I'm extremely disheartened. I do, when I see the frequently asked questions section of the website, it appears to me that it allows for that process. We have a very strong process in place for our budget approval process, and appreciative that Karen Diller is going to be able to help the ERTM be able to set up a vote.
Yeah, so thanks for bringing that up, Sarah. There's a couple things that I'd like to say, quite frankly, because no one's actually asked me any of these questions. And you should know that no one who's made comment to the RTM has reached out to me to ask those questions, or to Kate, to the best of my knowledge. So when Executive Order 7I came out, and we were trying to understand with Wayne what that actually meant for the budget process, it was incredulous to Kate and I that that the governor would suggest that the RTM would have to meet to transfer power to the Board of Finance, when obviously if they could meet to vote on the budget. So, we pushed really hard for that, but I do have to acknowledge and support the the legal opinion of town council. So, it is what it is at this moment, and the F&B committee has been very clear. But I do need to state for the record that there was a lot of public comment made about this with no backup information and no conversations with those of us that have been working very hard to try and understand what the governor intends.
And Jamie, I think we should put this in context because we started this conversation for the public watching that this is in regard to the approval process of the budget and who is going to finalize this, whether the RTM cedes this responsibility to the Board of Finance, just so people are clear. And I also was very concerned reading those emails that this was not an issue that the Board of Selectmen voted on, discussed. I think it was trying to help guide the RTM in the role of, you, Jamie, and Kate. But this is not a Board of Selectmen decision vote by any means. This is an issue for the RTM to decide with help of council.
Agreed.
That is correct.
Okay, so.
Okay, are there any other board questions or comments?
Just one, Jamie, circling back to your comments and your update in your report of all the wonderful information regarding apps.
Yep.
And how to feel, if that could get posted when possible onto the website so our community can be aware of those resources.
You bet. Absolutely. We will do that. Karen and Linda are doing yeoman's work, keeping the COVID resources pages up to date with robust information.
Absolutely. I would agree.
Yeah. Okay. If there's no other comments, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Krista? Okay, may I have a second?
Second, David.
So moved, Sarah.
David, okay. Moved by Krista, seconded by David. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Have a great day, everybody. Stay well.
Thank you.